Today I'm going to be wiring up my Boost Auto Parts M1 style running boards. These are the light up running boards, the non-articulating style. I've made a couple of videos about the running board offerings from Boost Auto Parts. The M1 style, which is the non-articulating, and then the M2, which is the articulating style. Both very similar installations. I did those on my 2022 Silverado half-ton truck, which I no longer have. It got moved to another person in my company. So now I'm driving this 2024 Silverado 2500 HD. I kept the M1 style ones just in my garage. They're currently installed on this truck, as you can see, but the wiring is not completed. Now, the installation of the brackets is really self-explanatory. There are predetermined spots on the back side of the cab and the rocker panel where there's bolts that line up to where the brackets go, and then you just install them. I'm not going to go in depth on the mounting of the running boards this time, but if you want to see a full in-depth, you can check out the Boost Auto Parts video or my previous videos because it's exactly the same. So I've got these installed on both sides of the truck. They will light up with a sequential turn signal and an amber running light. They also will have the option to be a white rock light with a switch that I can wire to the boards themselves. Now, there's a bunch of customizable options on these M1 running boards, so be sure to check out the Boost Auto website to see how you can customize them to your liking. Without getting too in-depth on this video, because a lot of this is kind of repeat, it's going to be relatively short and relatively brief on some of the explanations, but their videos on their websites are very detailed and very thorough, so definitely check out their official installation videos as well. I'm going to be referencing theirs during my install anyways. Like I said, I got the boards mounted. I've got some harnesses here I want to show you to explain what we're going to be wiring. So these two harnesses are the harnesses that go to each running board. And this one here on my left is going to be the one that hooks up to the battery to get power to the running boards. It's got a power and a ground. And there's a couple of connectors. And then there's a pair of these connectors. These are the ones that get plugged into the running board module itself. This white one is going to be like a kind of a pass-through for this harness so that they talk to each other. So there's this white connector here that'll connect. And then these go down to the running board. You use them in conjunction with these T harnesses if you opt for them. These are optional, but I definitely recommend you upgrade to them because it makes plugging in and getting the signal to the back of the headlight way easier. Basically just plug and play. So this will go into the back of the headlight. There will be a connector for each of these harnesses on the right side and the left side that'll connect together just like that. And that's how the running boards will get their signal for turn signals and running light and whatnot. The other wire on here is for the optional rock light, which is this next harness right here. Pretty self-explanatory. Again, there's going to be power and ground on this as well, and a white wire that will get hooked into this white wire on both sides. And then you do have to run the wires into the cab and place a switch to wherever you like. So I don't know if I want to do the rock light just yet on this, but it is an option that you have. So to start, I'm going to disconnect my negative batteries. This is a diesel truck, so I have two batteries. If you just have a regular 2500 with the gas motor, you're just going to have one battery. But since we're doing some wiring and electrical stuff, I am going to disconnect the batteries. Here's my battery on the passenger side. It's really annoying to get to. The terminal is way back there. Then over here on the driver's side is the other negative battery terminal right here. It's much easier to get to. Battery terminals are 10 millimeters. Just loosen this right here. Just loosen that nut on top, then you can wiggle the little clamp off of the terminal. This one's much harder to get to and much more annoying. Basically have to use a little wrench like this to get in there to loosen it, because they put this strap, there's like a structural member to hold the battery in place right over the bolt to make it that much harder to get to this. So once you loosen it a little bit, you should be able to wiggle that connector off just like the other one, like that. And then I'm going to put something in between the terminal and the clamp so that they don't touch while I'm working. Just got this shop rag I'm going to shove in between the clamp and the terminal so that we don't accidentally have a connection while we're working. So basically on this first harness, the one with the battery terminals, we want to get the two little black connectors down by the running boards by feeding it between the firewall and the wheel well liner, keeping away from hot and moving parts. It'll pop out right behind the wheel. Then we can zip tie it along the frame and get it to where we need to on the running boards. All right, so hopefully you can see this. I know it's a little tight in here. But that harness right there is going down behind the battery here on the passenger side, and it's following the fender liner down to over here behind the wheel, and it pops out right there. And then I've got it zip tied a few spots, and then comes along this bracket here and over to the controller on the running boards. And while I'm under here, here's a look at how the brackets are mounted. So there's threaded holes in the frame of the rocker panel of the truck already, and the hardware they send from Boost Auto just threads right in. So depending on the cab configuration of your truck, you're going to have 3 or 4 brackets. This is a crew cab, so there's 4 brackets. So back to the wiring. That wire comes down, hopefully you can see up in here. It's this black wire that's right in front of us, this one here. And it goes up to behind the battery. See if I can get it to focus a little bit. You can follow it up there all the way where it comes down behind the battery. And so now we can do the other side similarly. So then I just routed this, kind of fished it through underneath, and there's a hole in the battery box right here where this can all come through. And I'm just gonna leave this end of this harness just sort of loose in front of the headlight here, because we'll get to that later. But for now, I'm gonna take this other harness, which is similar, and run it down to the running board on that side of the truck, similarly how I did it to the passenger side. Okay, for this passenger side, I was able to run that wire down in the cavity that is the fender and the fender well. So that's this wire right here. And I'm basically to the right of the radiator reservoir, and I fed it down along the fender liner here. There's a pretty big cavity, and I just fed it down, and I was able to grab it on the underside of the truck relatively easily. And I just fed it there, like you see, and I've got them popped out right here, the 2 connectors that you're going to deal with later. There's the black one for the headlight, and then this white one is the pass-through, which will eventually make its way to the white one on that side. I'm just leaving them loose for now, but I've got them, like I said, they're running in the cavity behind this fender, and they pop out right underneath, right there. And I've got it zip tied a few times, and then they come over to this connector in the module right there. Zip tie it off, make it all nice and clean. So the next thing I'm going to deal with are these plug and play adapters. This is how you get your output signal for the M1 or M2 Luma steps, and these plug into the back of your headlight, and then they interrupt the signal, and then they give you the output here. So one end of these will go into the back of your headlight, and then the other end will go into that factory harness. So depending on the style of headlight you have, so these are the lower tier halogen headlights, the connector will either be right here on top, or you may have to go in through the wheel well, and it's more like on the bottom of the headlight. I think the upscale headlights with the LEDs have the connector kind of on the bottom. So you'd have to come in, take apart some of these screws. These are T15s on the fender liner, and then you can come in right through the back here to get to that connector. Either way, it's a plug and play adapter. One end gets plugged in to the back of the headlight, and the other gets plugged into that connector that was plugged into the headlight. And then this output is for the respective side. So this is going to go to my passenger side Luma step, which this connector right here, this like rectangular one, will go on this connector, and then same thing on the driver's side. The white wire on here is for the rock steps, the rock lights, which I'm going to deal with at another point, but you can hook that up to the rock lights and then run the switch into the cab. I'm going to mess with these right now and get them plugged in on both sides. Okay, I've got the connectors behind the headlights plugged in. My rock light to be used TBD later on is okay just being open like that. I've got the connection to both running boards done. There's that one on this side, there's that one on this side, and the harnesses are down in there, the pass-throughs. There's locking connectors on everything, so make sure you relock them. In each fender well, there's a place where you can zip tie your excess harnesses to a hole in the body so you can keep your wires nice and clean. Okay, if you recall, there was a harness on this side that had a white connector. There's a convenient place to run it across the radiator right here, all the way across this little gap in the radiator. There's some spots where you can mount it to, and then you want to get it over to the passenger side. That's this is coming from that driver side connector harness, and then this harness on this side, on the passenger side, has a place for it to plug in. And that's what this is for right here. This is so they talk to each other. So you're gonna plug those together. And then all that's left is this little bit of pigtail with a fuse and then a battery lead and a ground. So the battery on my truck is over here. I think the gassers, the battery is also back here. You can open up this panel and use one of these spots for your battery. And then I'm probably going to use this guy right here for my ground. It's a nice ground. It's a 13mm bolt that it even says GND for ground on it. So that's my ground right there. My battery there, white connector here. And then that's it. These should light up. I'm gonna take care of that and then I'm gonna light these up and check them out. All right, so I'm gonna wrap this video up. I've got everything done except for the rock lights. I'll do those in a separate video. Right now I do have the running boards wired for turn signal and running lights. So you can see here, I'm just clicking my key fob. There's the turn signal sequential, and then they are solid orange when the running light is on. I'll show that in a second. So the power on the ground, like I was showing you, I used this stud right here for my ground. I added some wire loom to the bare wires just to give it a little cleaner look under here. And then this is the fuse that runs along here, and then it goes underneath this battery box and mounts to those studs I was showing you before. I did my best to keep the wiring as hidden as possible. I like it to look real clean under here. Most of the wiring is right here. There is some back there, you know, and then we've got the harnesses that are here, and then everything runs along this little gap where there's places to zip tie in between the radiator and then like the front grill shroud area. It runs over to here underneath, and then there's other harness here, another harness tied up back there that runs down to the driver's side. Quick tip, when you're trying to run your wires through this area and through this area, you can remove this bracket right here with these two bolts where my thumb and middle finger are. These I think are 15mm bolts. You can take these out. This whole thing just pops off. It's really easy. It's just a little rubber grommet and a stud on the radiator. It slides off. It's really easy. It allows you to run your wires a little cleaner underneath this area. I did that on both sides. It's the same bracket, basically, just different sides. You can take that off to make it a little better access, and it looks a little cleaner that way, I think, too. So everything's done for the running lights and the signals, like I said. When I eventually get around to wiring the rock lights to this white wire on this harness on both sides here, I will have to run a switch into the cab. I gotta figure out where on the firewall to run those wires into the cab, and then I also need to figure out a switch location inside the cab as well. For now, I'm gonna wrap this video up since it's basically done. You can see the sequential light on the turn signal is matching to the sequential light on the Boost Auto tow mirror lights that I have. I did those a couple of months ago when I first got this truck. So you can replace these out to be a sequential as well. They're customizable. There's different options for these as well. But yeah, so I like the way these look compared to the factory ones I had on this truck. I don't know, they give it a little sleeker look. They're actually a little higher off the ground too, which is better for going on job sites for me. So that's what it'll look like in a running light configuration. It looks pretty cool running down the road at night. You can see the orange glow on the sides of your vehicle. I am going to be adding the Boost Auto cab lights eventually. I have them, I just need to find the time to do them. Yeah, so definitely check out the Boost Auto website for everything they offer. Like I said, this is the solid running board style. They also have a retractable running board style. I've had both on trucks before in the past, like I mentioned. I like them both. I just had these ones, so I figured I'd install them on this truck. Definitely check out their website. Definitely check out their in-depth installation videos. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Love it if you subscribe. Stay tuned for new videos. We'll see you next time. Later.